I didn't have a lot of, oh, I didn't have a lot of people around me to look up to and to say, I want to emulate you. I want to do it like that. Right.
Yeah.
So
which is funny, right? Because I mean, like we kind of talked about this last weekend when we were in the leadership summit. Nobody there had people around them, like from growing up, really. Like all the leaders were built on nothing or very little. I mean, I grew up with nothing. And I think I asked this question there, like, well, did somebody grow up like rich? And wealthy. Yeah. And so, anyway,
I think, just having that support, right? Like, or having that person you want to be like, because, that might have been your parent, some people look up to their parents a lot. So fast forward, I'm ready to take the world on. And I end up walking into a real estate company when I was 19, and it was a Central 21 and small town, and everybody looked the same, which was middle-aged white guy. And I'm a little 19-year-old, goofy blonde girl. And I say, I want to do real estate. And, how do I get into this business? And there was like 4 of them, I think, at this big table, like really intimidating. And they basically said, you can work for me for free. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. Or they said, you're not going to make it in this business. Really, if you don't come work for us for free, you're not going to make it in this business because no one's going to take you seriously. So I went out and I bought a restaurant. And I was the youngest person in the Chamber of Commerce in my area. So I was like, I'm going to show you, right? And so I made this restaurant very successful. I'd been in the restaurant industry since I was 16. I was like 19. No, I was 20. And so did the restaurant thing. And as we all know, like a lot of people in restaurants end up in real estate. There's this great cross, of careers in real estate and fitness. It's pretty interesting. And so I still wanted to do real estate, right? And but I was consumed with this restaurant. 2 years later, decided to sell the restaurant. I doubled my money, and which is very rare in real estate or in restaurants, if anyone has ever been in that industry. And decided to move to the big city, which at that time was Portland, Oregon. And I decided to move to Portland because I had a choice. I lived in Washington. I could go north on the I-5 to Seattle, or I could go south to Portland. And Portland just seemed more, it was calling to me more. It was a little bit smaller than Seattle. And so that's where I ended up at that point.
So Melissa, most of us are very high Ds. So can I just intercept real quick and just tell everyone, like, before you tell us how you actually built your amazing team and the amazing success, what is the unit count that you guys do a year now?
So 95, we've had 2 really good years, and mostly that was because I finally leveraged as many as I could possibly leverage. And now I'm going to hire 2 more up in Portland, even though I'm down here in California. And that's part of that limiting belief. I could have done it. I could have leveraged even more sooner. And I sure wish I would have, because I just had that limiting belief that I wasn't ready, or maybe I didn't have enough business, which I totally did. And I started growing the team in 2014, I think.
Mm-hmm. So 95 units, that's huge. I mean, I don't know. And you are doing solo, you were doing about 50 of those, right?
Yeah.
So 50 units, Melissa, and then she's had like people on a team kind of like when we'll talk about who you have on your team and how you grew it. But I mean, that's really big. And I think it's that is a mindset difference though from California, right?
To kind of put it in perspective, guys, for us in California, 95 units would be on par with like 80 to $100 million in production, depending on your average sale point. I mean, what's LA County? 850,000. The Valley is 900,000. Calabasas is $1 million, 5 million, 6. And even if you say, oh, well, the market's going down, okay, great. Adjust for 20% and you're still north of $60 million in production. So congratulations, Melissa.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I think our number was close around 50 million is what I think it ended up, because our average sales price is 500. It might have been a little less than 50 million because we had a lot of those $400,000 clients.
Yeah. So quite the difference. I mean, like, we are truly so fortunate to be in this price point in so many ways, because I mean, that's a lot of work and we can do half those units, you know? So talk to us. So then you were like, screw you world, I'm going to do this anyway.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Well, and I went to Portland and I did design school for a couple months. And then I realized that art projects were really fun because I did a lot of art projects, but I really decided, okay, I'm just gonna do real estate. I'm just gonna do it. And the funny thing is, when you're young, sometimes you don't have those limitations as we get older that we put on ourselves. Because when I bought the restaurant or when I started this business in a place where I knew zero people, and it was really pre-internet real estate, and I didn't know, I didn't think a thing of it. I just thought, oh, I'm just going to do this. Right. And I didn't even know the streets, like, and this is before GPS, you guys. So you had to use the Thomas Guide map. Do you remember that, Sonia?
Yeah. And you know, like when you move to a city with a river in it, if you take the wrong turn, you have to go all the way across the bridge before you can turn around.
Yeah.
See how I know. Yeah.
If anyone knows Portland, it's like a one river and there's these bridges that go across, and it's very confusing when you don't have GPS. Let's just say that. My clients also were very glad when I got that, because I was a mess. But got into the business, sold my first house in the first month. And back then, you guys, really our lead generation, you know, when I first got in the business, was floor time. Raise your hand if anyone's heard of floor time. And basically people used to call into real estate offices and say, you know, I'm interested in this house, that they drove by, because there wasn't really, I don't really remember there being a central website where people looked. It was like you had to go to the Century 21 website, or you had to go to the Remax website. And so floor time was huge. So back then, floor time, and I did open houses like Banshee. I mean, every weekend, open houses, right? So when you know nobody, and there isn't, you know, there isn't a central website where you can buy leads. There really isn't even personal websites back then, right? This was right before like the personal real estate website came out. So what I did is I did open houses every weekend, and then I did floor time as much as I possibly could. And, you know, that's where it started, I would say, right? For years and years. I was in 2000, 2000, year 2000. And then, you know, the little personal websites started coming up, but that really we weren't really at the lead generation online thing yet. Mm-hmm. And then, okay, let me think here. So I really just hit the pavement hard with asking for referrals from every client that I had, right? So there's referrals, there was open houses. And I see a lot of people wanting to do open houses now that I'm in the team leader role and we're talking about people building their businesses. And it's just so sporadic. And so I think the thing is you have to dig deep and find those open houses if that is in your lead generation plan, right? That was your lead generation. If you have a couple lead generation things and that is in it, you've got to, and I did it Saturday and Sundays, right? Because when you're new, if you're not lead generating, if that is your lead generation, then it's really 2 days a week. So you have to make sure. So I built a pretty good business on the open houses. And that's how open houses and referrals from my clients, and then just talking to every single person I knew back then is really how I started. Then crash, which sucked. I did anything I could to stay in the business. I did builder open houses for the weekends for the builders because they were paying like $50 a day. I did, there was auctions I worked at. I did anything I could do to stay in the business. And then I joined Keller Williams because somebody at one of my auction jobs had been at Keller Williams, and he said, you know what, you would be a good buyer's agent. And I said, what is a buyer's agent? I'd never heard of that before because this was new. And I'd already been in the business for like 9 years, but the industry was changing. It's always changing and evolving and growing, right? And so I said, okay, I'll try that. I like working with buyers. This is a long time ago.
No, gracias.
This is a long time ago. I like working with buyers. And so I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. What's that? So go in, work for the #1 team in the office, which at the time, this is when lead generation online started, right? It just had started. Our #1 team did 40 deals a year because back then this was a lot, because lead generation online now allows us, you guys, to do things so much more simply, right? You've got DocuSign. You can do things so much more, simply and quickly and efficiently. So you use all these tools, you should be able to generate much more business, right? So decided to do the buyer agent thing, did it for 1 year, was the top buyer's agent in my office. And out of the 50 deals that my team sold that year, the #1 team in the office, I was part of 40. Yeah.
Oh
So
my
then I was like,
God.
yeah, I was like, go ahead.
They were working you, girl. That
They
is
were.
awesome. That's so cool. Okay, so far I've heard, like, when you know nobody, or even if you do, but you want to not talk to the people you know, I don't know.
People did, yeah, a lot of people feel uncomfortable talking to their sphere if they have a sphere, right?
Yeah, and so open houses being systematized over that, we have that open house pro marketing plan for every day of the week if you want, right? You can also, by the way, do twilight open houses.
Oh yeah.
Even, right? Like even when they are already taken for the weekend. So you can ask to do them on a Friday afternoon or Monday evening or whatever, when people are going home from school and picking kids up and this and that. Okay, and then asking for referrals from everywhere, and then also online ads right now. Like those are 3 things that anyone could do that you've mentioned so far, aside from floor time, which sometimes it can still happen, but not really.
Sometimes people call into the office still, but you're not going to want to bank on that, right? Well, and then this leads me to think, okay, well then online lead generation, that team taught me how to speak on the phone and convert a lead online. And so when I went back on my own, that was huge for me, right? The Zillow was just starting. Used to get a little more bang for your buck with Zillow in the beginning. So, I just put all my money and energy into those open houses and the Zillow. And then of course the referrals and the repeat, which you guys, about 5 years in the business, that really starts kicking in. I mean, the repeat and past clients and referrals from them and their business, that was really helpful. But really, I always put the lead generation first, right? And I think and it doesn't have to be every.
How do you say specific, what does it mean to put that first for you?
You know what it means is that is my job for the week. Now, personally for me, I'm not a consistent daily person. For me, I was very, very consistent weekly. So for example, because open houses were my thing, I planned those all week. I made as much as I could out of those. I didn't just sit there and, not talk to people. I really pumped myself up. I got into that mindset of, how can I help someone today? How can I, find somebody that is going to want to use me? And the funny thing about that, you guys, is like this year, probably like a month or two ago, somebody actually called me. It was wild. Someone called me and said, I met you at an open house years ago. I don't know how many years ago. And I thought to myself, if I ever were going to sell my house, I was going to use you. And I was like stunned, right? Because you do these open houses, and I think a lot of people think, oh, it was not a good open house today, or that's what I hear the most is people think, well, I did, I sat there, only one person came in. So that's a big takeaway, is if you do open houses every weekend, then there's going to be some weekends that are really hot and some that are not, but it's the total sum of the average, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I think that's really important. I mean, and the other thing is that you hear other people say that stuff, right? Like, oh, open houses don't work or whatever. But
yeah.
The thing is, like, and by the way, people stop saying that to other people.
Totally.
if one type of lead gen didn't work for you, don't tell someone else that, because that could totally work for them, right? So you're just like killing other people's mojo. But yeah, I remember doing my first open house. I was like, gosh, I should have bought a chair.
Yeah, I've sat on stairs, some of those vacant houses. Then I got smart and bought a folding chair and put it in my trunk. But that is the thing, is that so if I were to come here, so say I moved to California, and which I did, and I didn't know barely anybody here either, right? If I wasn't coming into the leadership role and I were to start my real estate business here, I would do the same thing. I would do online leads, and then I would do open houses, because of course there's a lot of other things I would do, but those two things are what I call active lead generation versus passive, right? And so the other thing people say all the time, and Sonia, you've heard this, oh, online leads don't work.
Yeah.
Well, that is simply because you haven't learned how to do it at a high level yet. It's literally it frustrates me when people say online lead generation doesn't work, because if you're in Rise, if anyone's in Rise, do you guys have Rise in Calabasas?
I don't think yet, but
Not yet. We don't have it yet.
Yeah.
Okay. Basically, if you're doing any kind of online lead generation, you're going to maybe talk to 20 people for one deal. But let me ask you this, how many people are you talking to when you door knock? Many more than that, probably, before you get a deal. So it's just as effective. As long as you know how to convert someone on the phone, which anyone can learn. So.
Yeah. So, look, I'm going to drop something here in the chat, and you guys can, I'll put this somewhere where you guys can find it. But one thing I want to say about the online leads is that I think it's really important to really understand that they're all different, right? So a Facebook lead isn't going to convert the same way as a Zillow lead, for example, right? And as much as we don't like Zillow nowadays, they do charge a lot of money, because those are people that are most of the time a little bit more ready, versus somebody going on Facebook where they're just scrolling and then they're like, I might be interested in seeing what this property looks like, right? They didn't specifically go to a target place, right? So you have to understand, what does it mean to, what does it mean to convert each of these? Can you, Louisa, make me able to share my screen real quick? Can anyone?
Yeah, if there's websites like Zillow, Redfin, Realtor.com, those people are raising their hand with an interest. in some kind of real estate. And a lot of people say, well, they said no, they were just looking. Well, that's not good enough in our business, right? Like we have to dig 3 deep. We have to get down to the root of why they called and how long it could take them. The average online lead takes 6 months to actually come to fruition and close. So that's where the key is in the follow-up.
So I think something that comes through in your story, I just put this up here, but like you didn't stop, like you just kept going. And the fact that the immediate, I mean, you did get that one deal, which obviously is great. Like when you get one right when it's like right when you're hot. And I know that you and I have talked about this a lot, but once like that 3-month mark passes, and if you haven't gotten anything, it can be very deflating, I guess.
Discouraging. Yeah, it can be discouraging for sure.
So like, how do you, and this is a big conversation, by the way, like I was listening to Maxwell yesterday and he was talking about how do you keep yourself motivated in times like that, right? Because no one else is going to do it for you. No one else can do it for you. Nobody can want it more for you than you can want it for yourself. And I think that that's really important, a really important point in your story, Melissa, because you just kept going. You were like, I'm just going to do it. Like, if I do the right activity, the result will come. And you didn't stop because, you were like, oh, this weekend open house was slow.
Yeah, you hear that a lot. People will be like, open houses don't work. I did 2 of them, I did one last weekend and this weekend. And it's like, no, this is a sum of an average, right? It's how many times were you up at bat? And if you were only up at bat 1 weekend a month, like, let's get real, that's not enough. And I know people like to have their weekends, but let's also get real. An open house is 2 hours. So, you have plenty of weekend. Some people do 3 hours. Is that what they do here? 2 or 3 hours? I'm assuming.
3. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, we have plenty of time to play.
4. Yeah. Lisa
well,
said
if you want to do a 2 or 3 hour open house, you can do that. And you also want to make sure you're marketing it ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
What was Philip saying?
So I want to make sure we open it up to people, but I also just want to again say that we do have that open house pro marketing plan that helps you every single day to go through. It's free. You can get it from me, get it from the office, ask somebody, they'll give it to you. It's an online little booklet that you can work through, because the open house is really just an excuse for you to talk to people. You don't just show up, turn on the lights and say a song and a prayer that someone shows up, right? So that will help you go through the week, and every single day of the week, do something about, finding it, where to find it, what to do, how to prospect, how to get leads, how to work with the lenders beforehand, all of this, all these excuses to door knock and whatnot. And so I think that, the system is the piece I hear there. What about you guys? I feel like Philip and Louisa have something.
I do. Hi guys. I just started using Command last Friday. We did a Command party with like 4 of us on there. And for the first time, I walked through using Command to like sync a listing into it, and just total BS was like, oh, let's just try it. We'll learn and fail forward together. And so I went through the steps, put the appropriate tag. This tag is a simple, hey, Dillon Street, Virtuous Mission. Anyone that comes through, just tag them as a sign call, whatever, right? I pay $30, $15 for Instagram, $15 for Facebook. For years now, both accounts have been hooked up to Command. We launch it, or we filter it down to real estate investors who are thinking of selling, and we blast it out there. It's 1.1 million impressions supposedly. Immediately over the weekend, while I was at the leadership retreat, we had 4 hits. 2 more hits. I haven't checked through all my emails this morning, but so far 6. So you figure $5 or whatever that comes out to per lead. And then you actually do have interested people who are engaging, at least on text messaging, about like, hey, I've read about a 1031 exchange. What do you think? Right. And so that's engagement off of like total cold leads. And that's just the first one we're doing. I'm training now my VA in order that he can just run it. And I'm giving him a budget, like it's a credit card link, right? But that credit card only has like a couple $100 on it. so he can't go crazy, but it'll give him the the freedom to fail forward, create content, and just boost until we find a way to like, hey, now we can farm our own leads instead of like Op City getting these same people. We get them ourselves, we get 100% on our own deals, or we can refer them to our team at whatever, 25 to 50% clip, and then we just keep on growing our business. So, and that's just that. I mean, most of my time, honestly, it's database or my team's database or referrals that just come through just different sources of individuals and relationships that we have. So that's kind of how that whole kind of circle is currently working out.
Yeah. And like you said, it's just, you can try it and see what happens. And in fact, Command gives you those metrics for each ad you run. One might work better than the other.
Oh yeah. If I can share one more, we did it on our own with Instagram, promoting an open house, whatever. And on there, it would cost us like $50 to get like a full week workup and only get like maybe 20,000 impressions, which at the time was like, oh shit, that's a lot, right?
Yeah.
But there was no engagement, no place to capture because they would just DM us, right? Or they would go to our website and we would lose them anyway because they would just check out the website. On Command, they must, like when you go through the steps, they actually link whatever their Facebook profile is. If they're on Facebook and that's how they found you, they'll get their contact number, email, and then our VA, or if you do it yourself, because we're all done, we all use our real names on Facebook, right? We can look them up and find out they have more property, and all 6 own property, right? So all 6 people who hit us up on Facebook or use their real name on Instagram, we have now their property addresses too. And sure enough, they have primary homes the whole 9.
That's amazing. I mean, it is truly so crazy easy right now. And like, even on this smart plan that you see here, or in this plan that you see right here, when you run the ad, you can actually already, before it even ever comes in, make it go on to a specific smart plan, which Nick Baldwin has this one that's called Revised Town and Property Plan. I would pull that up in your smart plans to see it. It's really good for Facebook lead follow-up. So when you create the ad, you can actually say, once the ad comes in, you immediately start this plan. And it's a lot of text, so which is like 300% more effective than calling nowadays. So I think that, Melissa, you opened up a can of worms for us. Thanks.
Well, I mean, anything online, I mean, honestly, we can make our business on fire with all of the resources that Keller Williams has in any of these online lead generation, because you hit so many more people, and I just can't say it enough that, it is so easy right now if you just do a few things really good. Just do a few things.
Yeah. You talk a lot about that, not being a jack of all trades, right?
Yeah. I mean, the job, what are they say? The job is not easy, but it's simple.
Mm-hmm.
It's let's simplify it. I think there's so many things that we can do. And we're all excited and entrepreneurial and want to do all this stuff and try all this stuff. And in the end, you're going to find a few things that work really well for you and you want to stick with those. So.
Awesome. Well, I mean, thank you so much for sharing that with us today. I think it's really inspiring. Hopefully you all thought so too. Does anybody else have any comments?
Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, everyone, thanks for being here. It's Friday. So go out there, go get him, go be your amazing selves. Don't give up. What else can I say that's motivational? Louisa, wrap it up for us.
Friday is your Monday.
Well, there you go. Okay.
Bye, ladies. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Sign up for all the new Calabasas.
We take out my wife's salary, like from it all, we're out like